we are aging, and aging itself, it's hard.
Thank you for reminding us. Because we go on in bed, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, and that creates stress.
I just leave my body to tell me when is the time to stop and rest and disappear, and it's basically that. There is still a lot of ignorance when it comes to this disease specifically, and I think that being a pharmacist helps me a lot, especially with a medical background, to approach to doctors and work out this stigma.
If somebody's watching this right now, whether they've been diagnosed with porphyria or maybe they're thinking they're going to try and see, what advice would you give them right now?
Not the best advice for sure, but for all people that are undiagnosed or that are diagnosed, you have the best disease.
Welcome to Rarely Discussed, an American Porphyria Foundation podcast with your hosts Andrew McManamon
and Nicole Castellano.
We have porphyria, a rare disease. Rare diseases differ greatly but share many similarities in how they affect our lives.
Being rare can feel lonely and isolating, but we're stronger together. Join us in meaningful interviews with porphyria and rare disease experts and the patients and families impacted as we connect, learn, and heal together.
We'll talk diagnosis, treatment, pain, mental health, managing daily life, and everything rare. Welcome to Rarely Discussed. This is episode number 10, lucky number 10, because we are, for the first time ever, in person doing this podcast, and we're not even in the U.S., we are in Pamplona, Spain, for the one and only International Congress of Porphyrins and Porphyrias 2024. So I thought, Nicole, you could introduce our first ever in-person guest.
Yes, this is Nadezda Pejovic, and she is from Serbia. She lives in Belgrade, and she's has AIP, right? And also she's the founder of the National Association of Porphyrias Serbia. So we're really excited to have you here. Tell us, why don't we start with, first of all, I'm just so excited that you're our first in person. And just to start, before you start, I just want to say you've done so much in very little time, and you're here at this conference. Just saying that is a lot. So I think that your passion is going to show through when everyone listens to you talking and everything. But could you just start off by telling us, you are a patient and a patient advocacy group leader, and just kind of tell us how it started with the porphyria, and then maybe in your journey to where you are now.
Well, first of all, I'm honored to be a guest at your podcast. I was watching you, and the most importantly, you guys and APF was inspiration for me to start advocacy in the first place, specifically porphyria advocacy, and then extend my advocacy journey to other rare diseases. So thank you for this.
Oh no, I love hearing that. That's wonderful.
And I'm super honored that we are actually doing this in person. And meeting you actually in person means a lot to me. So the question was the start of my
just kind of how it started. And I know you said that your sister has to be family members that have porphyria, and but you didn't necessarily know that. So just maybe start there, how you kind of figured that out.
So from this very moment, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, and I'm a patient. So I'm wearing multiple hats. But I was working in a pharmacy in retail back then when I first had a contact with porphyria. My sister had a severe attack. She had more than 15 attacks throughout the last 15 years. And it was so stressful for me, at least, to learn first time about porphyria after like 5 non-stop visits to doctors, to different doctors, running a lot of tests, labs, and finding out that this is a disease and it's genetic. And when we started informing our relatives about the disease, I was shocked to find out that a lot of my relatives already knew about this. So it was such a painful information to process because I wanted to inform all of them that we are probably the first to have this situation. So it would be good to prevent such situation.
So
in
they
the
can
future.
check out and
Yeah.
see.
However, my parents were divorced, so we were living with my mom. My dad had porphyria,
Mhm.
which we figured out later, like this year,
Oh,
after almost 15 years from my sister's attack. And this is actually one of the reasons I am happy that I'm doing this because I'm revealing the family history, the old stigmas, all secrets that went under the carpet,
Mhm.
which could be. It does require some bravery to do that.
It certainly does,
Yeah.
especially when you see that they knew about this, and would you think maybe they're ashamed or they just didn't want the stigma around that? I know you said it's to this day it's still there in a lot of communities, but what did you ever find out exactly what it was? They just why they didn't want to talk about it, even within the family.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't have much chance to speak about that
Mm.
because my grandma knew that info passed 3 years ago.
I'm sorry.
But my father was actually around 5 or 6 years in and out of mental hospital, and he was actually undiagnosed with porphyria, and it was strange because every time he went out of the facility, he would get better, but every time he was admitted, he was actually getting worse in a hospital. So.
Being a pharmacist, do you think maybe there were some unsafe drugs that were
Probably.
involved in that,
Probably,
possibly?
especially if when you cannot blame doctors if they're not aware that you have
course.
porphyria,
Mhm.
that they will apply some unsafe drugs.
Mhm.
And same goes with medical procedures. There is still a lot of ignorance when it comes to this disease specifically.
Mhm.
And I think that being a pharmacist helps me a lot, especially with a medical background, to approach to doctors and work out this stigma. And again, it's super hard because there is approximately 8,000 different rare diseases, and every week, 5 new mutations are discovered
Wow.
in a field of rare diseases. So we can definitely have understanding for medical specialists, but again, we are living this disease, and it's super important for us to have that support, other than just having the information what your disease is, and to get back to the point where I was first discovered I have porphyria, or my sister, because she was in a bed for a couple of weeks. She was pretty weak. Pretty fast after the first attack, she had another one after a month. So it was pretty serious situation, and we had issues with admitting her to the ER.
Okay.
But I did a crazy thing, which I don't recommend anyone.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, but
Do not do this.
But I basically, since I was working in pharmacy, I took some 10% glucose solutions, IVs. Had that everything in my apartment.
Mhm.
Also, prostigmin,
Okay.
which was the scariest thing I have ever done. But that was the only thing that helped her. We didn't have access to Normosan, so I figured out if I help her at the right time when the attack starts, I will spare her hospitals and doctors and explain, because my notion was that when we come to the hospital, we spend so much time waiting for tests and everything else and the right doctor, and then they have shifts and they are switching. And so until we get to the point where she gets therapy, sometimes it's too late. She had like 2 heart arrests during the first attack,
Oh my goodness.
and it was just a lot that she stayed alive. So out of that stress and fear, I did a crazy thing, and I first called my friends who were in medical school, tried to call private doctors to apply the glucose. But even then, they were not aware of the porphyria. They were like, oh, this is too much sugar. It's not smart for you to do that.
Sure.
And I was left alone with my sister. The attack started, so I gave her that was the scariest thing, the first scary thing, to basically put the needle into the vein.
Wow.
And the other one was to apply the prostamine, because it could kill you for sure. So I had to measure her heart rate, and then
That's terrifying.
yeah, and then giving her that in drops, and her muscles on her face started moving. But it's a great thing to release any kind of spasm in your organism.
Okay.
For me, it was most important to make her able to again go to toilet, so pee or eat food, because when attack starts, especially with her, she cannot eat, she cannot drink water, she cannot go out for anything. So it's basically a collapse of her organism. And when she got go to sleep, that's the moment when we start losing her. So it was prophylaxis from home with some super additional knowledge.
Sure.
But it's definitely not something that I would recommend to any patient. So that was also one of the reasons why I started the association with the best possible approach. And when I started, I was first searching for different people in my area that have porphyria. Every one of us, we were in a group for APF.
Okay.
We were definitely reading and getting a lot of great information about porphyria, about medications. However, it's a different, because we have a different system and different policies
Sure.
here. So I didn't have that hard of a task to adopt those information to our region. And I would say that I'm just grateful, because I had some seniors, secure my path through this. And it's much easier than it looks. It definitely sounds like a big thing, but it was pretty natural to me.
Sure.
I definitely have a drive to do things, but I couldn't do that if someone else didn't do that
Sure.
before me. So.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask too, just because you have family with porphyria, because obviously isolation and being alone is a huge thing. We've talked about it on countless episodes, but how is it feeling with your family having it too? Like, is there, I wouldn't say content, because it's still bad, but I mean, was it nice to kind of be able to have somebody to talk to that's feeling similar with it?
Well, we are actually making fun of it all the time. That's kind of our approach.
Using humor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's my mom on one side. She's a healthy person, but and there's all of us on the other side. The funny thing is that my parents, they have 4 kids. I'm the oldest one, so all of us, they have mutation. And there is 3 sisters and 1 brother. And 3 sisters, I had 2 mild attacks. My second sister, she had more than 15 attacks, and the youngest sister, she had attack when she was starting the college in Slovenia.
Okay.
So it was sad to see that she had to come back home because of that. We were expecting okay, we already know everything about it. It shouldn't be an issue, but when it hits you, everyone will actually be different about the first attack.
Sure.
A lot of people are experiencing nutritional issues. Like a lot of us have a fear of that pain. It's definitely a depression that is all the time here, at least for me. There's also denial.
Yeah.
Even though if you have like a genetic confirmation, there's also
here it is, but I don't want to see it.
And but we kind of making fun of it, and that's how we accepting or going again, reminding ourselves of a debilitating thing called porphyria sometimes. And it's definitely easier when you have family members, but now when I just look around me, I can see that even if I have someone to speak about it, we kind of is isolating ourselves as a family from a different family. So everything has its toll on us for sure, and it's definitely happening in period when I should probably think about my family or starting my own family. So it's definitely hard for a young person to take, but that's something that we are learning on the go.
Yeah, and now you said your first attack was kind of like really out of nowhere.
It was actually in a high school. So it happened in my dorm room. I was living with 3 roommates, and I had excruciating pain down my spine, and I just ended up in some weird, not just a fetal position, but it was a strong cramp that put me in that position for a couple of hours. My roommates were scared. And next morning, when we called assistant and went to a doctor, everything has been gone for inexplicable reason. But that was when I look back.
You mean the pain had stopped?
Yeah.
So were you not sure if you still had to go to the doctor then? Or?
No, I went to a doctor, but they couldn't explain anything. I was pretty healthy at that time. Super young, doing some sports, nothing actually serious to be reconsidered as issue. They told it could be because of stress or something along those lines. So, but I was cool with that because I was feeling well the next day. Just a bit of scare, but that's it. I forgot about it within like 2 days from that. But then the other mild attack happened when I was in university. So I was going back because in pharmacy you have a lot of practice in labs, and I was always a smart one. I was learning about everything before anyone else, preparing scripts for my assistant professors and everything else.
Wow.
But the weird situation was in a lab. There was a lot of evaporation from different substances. So 20 minutes in, if I don't finish my task, I will start losing my mind. I would become scared because I was not aware where am I, how to get out, and it started happening more and more and more. Also including stress because of university and everything you need to go through. And on my way home, I lost feeling in my legs, and it was happening on a crosswalk. So people were thinking that I wanted to commit suicide, which is crazy. But it's something that happened to your body unexpectedly, and
you couldn't get up.
I couldn't, but I had people around me that helped me. But it's difficult to handle, to explain people that it just happened. It doesn't happen like that, right? And when we actually had my sister diagnosed, everything made sense. So Since then, we are trying to raise awareness, at least in my region, regarding that. Explain the differences among acute recurring patients, people that just have a genetic mutation, but they are latent, and also explain, which is super important for me to come to the position where our doctors will take care of comorbidities or complications of disease more than just attacks. Because if you have a good prevention, good nutrition, if you are considered as a person living with rare disease and you adjust your life according to that, it's not easy, but it's doable. Then the only thing we should take care of would be the complication of disease. And I would say that there is still a lot of unknown situations that should be discovered, investigated, and explained. But this is more important for us than that one acute attack. I'm not sure how people in US or doctors in US are looking into porphyria, but in Serbia, in my region specifically, they just consider porphyria as that acute attack. And other than that, there's it was a lot put down on association to explain to patients that they need to be aware of it all the time, because they were referring to porphyria like a virus disease or something. Oh, I had that like 20 years ago. I'm good now. I'm on dialysis, but
and that has nothing to do with it.
So it was a tricky to explain to people that they will have it. They were born with that, right?
I've seen a big difference, as far as the doctors in the U.S. When I first was diagnosed, and I asked, so do I just take some pills, or like what do I do? And it goes, and they're like, well, we don't really know, and that wasn't very, very satisfying. And all it was every time you have an attack, you go and you get treated, and then I was getting prophylactic heme, and I was doing a lot better like that. But it wasn't until meeting other patients where finding out that there are chronic diseases, like we were talking about education, and I thought I was very educated, but then I realized that I didn't realize a lot of the headaches that I was having, and some other things that were. I had this pain that I've talked about it before. It's like nonstop, and it's like my shoulder blade, my back there, and it always got worse when the porphyria got worse. So I in my mind it was connected, but I was like, but I'm not in the hospital. I'm not really sick. It's not a total acute attack, and so I think that in the last 10 years, it's made a big. I think the awareness of the fact that there are chronic symptoms, especially for acute porphyrias, where they've gone like me. I went over 12 years without getting diagnosed. There's a lot of nerve damage, and so like you just said, now when you learn these things, you look back and it makes sense, But I think it's definitely doctors are much more aware of that because in just 10 years. So
and we have now access to internet. We are connected worldwide. Even though this is the first time we are meeting in person, I feel like I know you for years now. And it's a different feeling than having probably other diseases or other conditions. I don't think that mechanical engineers worldwide connect in this way. So, so we had this personal story, every one of us, and it's actually a funny thing, but because I was visiting a lot of conferences on different rare diseases, but everyone has, no matter if it's just a scientific conference or it's just a patient-oriented conference, everyone has that need to tell their story. Because I think that we experience a lot of gaslighting during the period of diagnosis and therapy. And that's the thing actually with the pain in porphyria, because nothing visibly has been changed in your body. And you have excruciating pain and nobody believes you. And that's the first situation you're experiencing as a patient of porphyria in ER, and that's something that bothers me most. So we need to be considered seriously, definitely, because it's not like a simple math. I can see anything wrong. It's wrong with you.
Right.
So if you are experiencing some pain, then you're probably for psychic department or something like that. So
Sure.
it's definitely not something that should be same. It should be different, changed with different approach,
Sure.
and holistically, I think that would be the best way to do things. But we should have psychological assistance in every medical room because no matter how good you are professionally, you need to find a way how to present a diagnosis to patient.
Right. Yeah.
It hits everyone differently.
Sure.
And I was talking about, to backstep a little bit, to say that porphyria is more than an attack, and it's just something, it's like, you hear about those things like in the US where people go up to you and be like, what do you do for a living? And it's just like, well, I'm not defined by what I work. But it's the same thing with porphyria in a sense, I've noticed, and I was talking to Derry about this, and he's like, people will come up and be like, how many attacks do you have? Yeah. And it's like, well, porphyria is a little bit more than an attack. And he was saying that, it's just like, I was born with this. I mean, it's a lifelong thing. It's not just when I have these attacks. So I think on a patient level too, patient to patient, it's understanding, hey, attacks, I mean, obviously attacks more severe depending, but I think it's just, you have porphyria, it all sucks for everybody. Yeah. We're all just in this pool, and I think it's just understanding that too. Yeah. Just to go back to that, I guess. Just because, I think people are just stuck on, just being a virus.
And I just wanted to ask you, so have you ever received advice, get out of stressful situations? How do you treat that? Because it was the funniest thing for me when someone tell me to calm down or don't go to stressful situations. That's the only thing that will be, I don't know, worse than before the advice.
Right. Yeah. It's true. You know, it's here. So for me, there would be two parts to that two answers to that, two parts of an answer to that question. One is, I just lost my train of thought. What you were saying about stress. So usually, when it's new, you are just kind of focusing on the attacks because you don't really know. You start to learn what led up to that, right? You know, you were saying you look back and you go try to find what caused this. Was it stress? What did I have a drug? Like cigarette smoke is really like if I'm around other people, I have to walk through it. I like I hold my breath, things like that. So you have to learn the things that kind of your triggers. We know what the main triggers are, but we all have our own specific ones that happen differently. So then while you're in the attack, to say calm down, it's the worst part because you're like your mind. It's so bad you can't think of that. You're just like like screaming, and I don't know if I'm the only one that does that, but you feel like you're dying. It's the horrible pain. So to say calm down. Now, at first I was like, I can't calm down. The nurses would be like, here's the heat pack, you need to take deep breaths. And I was thinking, I can't. That's not going to fix this. This is so bad. Right. And then after having the experience and going, okay, I'm going to try to take a deep. I'm going to try because this isn't something that's just if it can. You do research and you go, it does help to take deep breaths. It does, so if you can try to, it also helps to have someone there to remind you to do that because for me, it's like all you can see is what's right in front of you or what you can feel. And just to have someone say, okay, just, when you can, try to take a deep breath. And so I think that, so there are two things, like, then you go, okay, how am I going to manage my stress so I don't get into another attack? And it's very hard. I think all of us probably are better at it, but we still struggle. I know I do. I still struggle with it because the healthier that I get, the more I feel like the old me, and I push myself, and then all of a sudden I think, well, but I'm not going to push all the way. But then when I'm in it, I'm like, well, it's just a little bit more, and then I end up like, we were talking, you have to sleep and take care of yourself, and it stops everything. So it's as far as I don't know about you guys with stress. It's like the longer I've had this, I've learned more coping skills, and sometimes, a lot of times, we have a chat of patients with acute porphyria, and usually someone has to like kick someone else's butt and be like, no, stop it. Because we go, oh, I'm in bed, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, and that creates stress.
Right.
And if you're, so, you need someone to say, no, rest. You need to give yourself permission to rest and to say, no, it's too much. And I think that for me, I'm hard on myself and I judge myself so much more than anyone else. And I think that, I have to remind myself, sometimes I can see it, that I'm doing it, but sometimes I can't. And so it helps to have somebody else, like, just say, you're doing it again. No.
Yeah, I think it depends on how it's presented, obviously. I know
Right.
someone's just like, can you calm down? Like,
Yeah,
it's
like-
not that big of a deal. I think,
Like some of that.
yeah. But I think if you can take the meaning behind it a little less literal,
Right.
then you can be like, okay, you know what? It's just kind of becoming a little bit more present in the time. Like, those exercises where it's like, what's one thing you smell? What's one thing you see? What's one thing you taste?
Right.
And like, you can run that through while you're doing that attack and be like, okay, I'm here. And if you've gone through several attacks, you kind of know what it's going to take to get back.
Right.
So just knowing that the end is near, maybe
Yeah.
a little farther away for some, but knowing that. But I mean, at least it's having those little things that you can do. Like for me, it was hot pad. It was that little hand massager where I just had somebody just going over my stomach all the time.
Wow. Okay.
Or I had oils from like a diffuser,
Mhm.
and I would just smell it, and the nausea would just go away for temporarily.
Wow.
So I would
Well,
just.
I
be
need to
smelling
find
that.
out what you were smelling because.
Mint, I think mint.
It was
Yeah.
either, I couldn't remember if it was mint or I think it was peppermint.
Peppermint,
Yeah, it
yeah,
was
that
peppermint.
usually in that.
So I was
settles
always just going like that.
I do that with the tea bag sometime when we're out of the oil, and I'll just grab the peppermint tea and I'll be like smelling it. So.
Great advices. Well,
Just little things.
Yeah, I think that for me the most important tool would be that situation where you have like 20 good days and then 10 bad days. And sometimes, depending on the month, those 20 days could be 21, 22, or 23, which means a lot, the
Mhm.
difference.
Yeah.
And I kind of accepted disease, and I'm just trying to find out where is the border of that. And I just leave my body to tell me like when is the time to stop and rest and disappear. And it's basically that. Like I'm disappearing now for the rest of the world. I'm just trying to get out of this in one piece,
Right.
hopefully. And it was I was experiencing different not to say or describe them as hallucinations, but it's definitely anxious attacks, especially when I'm into those 10 bad days.
Sure.
I need to still go to work or hang out with people, if it's something work related or school related, and I was not able to go out from the apartment to put my pants on. I just called my mom to come to pick me up and basically walk with me to my job. And when someone say, "Oh, you should, try to get out of stressful situations, jobs," it just doesn't make sense because we are aware of the regular triggers, but we
Right.
still need to learn to first accept disease, then learn what our own triggers are,
Right.
and after that, what could be potentially new triggers, because we are aging, and aging itself, it's hard.
Thank you for reminding us.
It's true.
I think that the biggest stressor for me is lack of information, or
Yes. Yeah.
at least lack of open minds.
Mhm.
So, okay, we are not aware of what else could happen with porphyria,
Mhm.
but at least be honest and say, oh, we don't know this, but
Right.
let's try to figure it out.
Mhm.
Right.
Let's talk with patients, let's talk with professionals, let's develop something together. I think it was back in 70s or 80s, but HIV advocates had that sentence, nothing about us without us. And that's kind of my mantra when it comes to advocacy. I really want to be included in all parts. I am a pharmacist, I do have a medical background, and it's easier for me to learn a lot about metabolism, with porphyria, with therapies, with everything else.
Right.
But we are unfortunately in a situation where in medical school you can read maybe a page or two about
Yeah.
porphyria,
If that.
and we need to rely on ourselves and our knowledge. And I think it's crucial for us to have all the information about disease, even
Right.
if it's medical, if it's professional, because it will help us understand the problem to its core. And this is something that should be widely accepted as a thing.
Mhm.
Absolutely, and I think it's great. Like even coming to the ICPP conference, we're here, we're learning the newest research that doctors and industry are doing to try to help us, and it's but it's not easy to always just get here. It's usually flying across the world, or it's a little bit closer for you, but it's still, you have to take off work and do all these things. So earlier when we were talking, it's all about almost every problem can be solved with education, and like you said, and working together. And also we were talking about earlier that it's really hard to manage this with one doctor. And doctors talk about it. We talk about having a healthcare team. But I know you said you were kind of finding that difficult to with the neurologist that you were talking. You were finding that difficult. And also Dr. Smith was saying, as far as like just he was talking to other doctors. Do you see this? If you see something like this, refer your patient to me, and that started a relationship, and now they do work together. And we know that we have experts all over the world that are working together, with IPNET and everything like that, and other groups. So I think it's how do you think Serbia is behind with? First of all, I don't think anyone does it enough. It's because you have to be a really strong advocate to connect and say, you need to talk to my other doctor because I don't understand. A lot of people can't explain it, or even if they write it down, they can at least give it to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so do you think Serbia is a little bit more behind with that?
Well,
possibly?
we are making the progress worldwide, but still, I think that we have a different approaches, we have different cultures, and that's something you should need to take into consideration, especially with advocacy.
Sure.
When it comes to patients and when it comes to professionals. So I would say that it's definitely a bit behind, although when you look to all the decisions, regulatives, we are here. We are definitely in a good spot.
Yeah.
However, we definitely need a lot of practice to start feeling that we are supported through our system. And that was what I'm saying. I wouldn't say that Serbia is lacking when it comes to knowledge,
Sure.
especially for patients. I definitely had a great examples throughout the world with GPAC, UPA, and it was kind of easy thing to do, just to gather all the information, adjust to our region, and put everything together, connect with people and patients. But the hardest thing for me is to make other people do their work, to inspire them, because
Sure.
nobody, I'm aware that all of us have the same goal, or at least we have the same motivation, because
Sure.
we have our private stories, our private lives as advocating for disease.
Yeah.
But not all doctors have the same opinion about this.
Sure.
Not everyone will take interest into porphyria, which is sad, but I would personally love that the best genetic doctor in Serbia accepts working with me. And I would love that the best ER doctor accept working with me.
That's wonderful.
And I hate that logic is something that doesn't drive this world. I hate when I come to a meeting with decision maker, I prepare everything. Everything is written down, proactively suggesting resolutions on some issues, and they just say, "Oh, thank you for your time. We will see what we can do for you." And it's just a non-stop fight, keeping everything together. But my main focus all the time would be a patient, and if I'm lacking ways on how to support patient through the system, I'm not afraid to use any kind of any kind of way, different ways or alternate ways to support them, because I think that patient perspective is super important, and it would be the main indicator to show you if something works or if something doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And you were even telling me that there was a patient that wasn't getting treated, and you were there and you said you were gonna have a journalist. Like you said, it's nothing's out of your reach to go ahead and do something for a patient. So that was you said it is brave. You said brave earlier, and it's true. It's not easy.
Maybe it's a bit crazy and a bit brave, but I'm just trying to use my logic, and I'm a practical person. I definitely like science, but if science doesn't work in practice, then it has something to do with like people and culture. So let's just figure out what are the intersections, and let's use that wisely. So even that, I mean, I'm not proud of that, but that's something that was the best solution at the given situation, and thank God the girl is alive. But I don't want to imagine what would happen if she stayed at that small hospital without the diagnosis and without treatment.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But it's not even to say you're crazy for it, though. I think that just goes to show your character and why you're such a good fit for what you do. So being an advocate for all the patients out there is important, because obviously there's a lot of people that can't advocate for themselves. So you being the top of that and helping those people do that is incredible.
I mean, I definitely receive a lot of help, at least by looking what your guys doing. It's definitely easier than, being introduced with something for the first time.
And just starting from scratch. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So even though I'm not physically with you guys, I'm definitely supported by the community.
Absolutely.
And there is also a lot of people in Serbia that would support our work, but we still are lacking the basic thing, which would be a healthcare support.
Sure.
There is a healthcare support, but it's not systematic. It's more of help and assistance from the individual that lose interest after a short period of time. And I think that that is actually an indicator that we need to do our job, or I need to do my job better.
Yeah, well, I've not like with ERs, it seems that we're always talking, all patients are always talking about ER, and, we have the ER kit, and it has instructions on, get a letter from your doctor with the protocol. If something happens, the doctor says, please call me and everything. And even in so many times, sometimes doctors listen, but so many times they don't even open it. They're like, I'm not here for that. I'm here to just get you kind of stabilized and but it's like that is what needs to be done to be stabilized, and they're in lack of knowledge, it's really difficult. So I think that, not just in Serbia, but I think everywhere in the world, it's, and I understand, because, those that, they are there for acute things like, a gunshot wound or a car accident or things like that. But also, if they're not listening and they are possibly giving an unsafe drug, now that patient is in the same precarious situation as somebody who's been in a bad car, that they may not make it if they get that. There was a girl, I'm sure we were talking in Costa Rica.
Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, and she passed away, 23 years old. And the community, we all got together and we all tried to help. I mean, everybody in the world was talking about how can we get this, and it wasn't able to be done in time. But in that situation, the doctor's hands, when I first heard it, I'm like, why won't they just do this? They weren't legally allowed because the way the healthcare system was set up. Mm-hmm. And you go, my goodness, like the doctors, that's another thing, like I know Desiree's done a lot of stuff with Congress and the FDA, talking to be like, we need to make these systemic changes that you were talking about at the very beginning. But yeah, it's I think that's something that, if we all just get together and try to lift each other up, it's coming to when we're talking about GPAC, or you're going to be the patient coordinator for IPNET. Is that starts in January, right?
Correct.
So
next 2 years.
I mean that's a big responsibility to take on, and you've just kind of taken. She's lit her own torch and just kind of just running and everything, but it's a lot to change, because like you said, we see the small changes, but it seems like we still have this big mountain to climb. In other places, in Latin America, where, like, I was talking to Kika and she said there was a patient that had to walk 2 hours to their treatment. They could get their treatment, but they couldn't get there. Can you imagine when you're sick walking 2 miles? And so I'm sure it's hot, because it's south and everything. So it's just, we all of our different countries we're at different places to start. We have the same issues, but we're at different spots. And I think that, we have all these great ideas in ways to conquer these obstacles, but some of them aren't possible. Maybe what's possible in the U.S. isn't possible in Serbia, which maybe wouldn't be possible in Italy or Australia or wherever. So what do you, if you were just to kind of, when you're looking at Serbia and you're here getting all this information, you are so involved, even with GPAC, you're in like basically every working group. You're doing so much. And what are you hoping to bring back? I know the conference isn't over yet. The Congress isn't over, but what are you hoping to bring back? Is it maybe a list of things to find out how you can fit it into your system? Is there one thing that's standing out to you that's really needs to be changed, and you see a way to do it? Like, what would you say to that for the people in your country that are watching or listening? That what can they expect from your experiences, because you're out there grabbing all this information?
Well, learning, actually networking at conferences such as this one is actually the most valuable thing I can take. And actually, this is how you humanely learning about different people, different cultures, different situations. So we definitely, our work is to make the situation with the policies, with the knowledge, with patients and doctors work together.
Sure.
But there will always be some obstacles or issues. Policies are changing.
Right.
Science will get better and better. Doctors could be overwhelmed, or they can decide just not to do a medicine in this amount. So we have that issue in Serbia, actually.
Really?
A lot of doctors, we are lacking the doctors because of the economical situation. A lot of doctors are leaving the country. So we are lacking doctors and specialists. And in Serbia, we have that approach, or at least I do, that we should definitely invest into young people to motivate them to learn more, to finish the degree, of course, to be economically supported to do that job, and not leave the country. Because in short period of time, we would not have a doctor to treat us, right?
Sure.
And I also try to have a global perspective, because porphyria is definitely one of diseases because of APNET or IPNET right
Mhm.
now that always had that professional support, the medical support.
Sure.
But we still need to get together and have that same medical support to every country in every region of this world.
Right.
I do have a situation where I have a great communication with IPNET,
Mm-hmm.
but even though I have all recommendations for treating porphyria, I still have some obstacles in Serbia to basically make my doctors accept those recommendations.
Those practical
Yeah.
applications, like we were
And
talking.
but as I said, like there will always be some sort of issue. In US, that's probably price of the therapy, the medications.
Right.
In Europe, that's a different policies. It's hilarious how EU is having like the separation of all countries. So we are all in Europe, but there are non-EU countries and EU countries. There are different procedures and different access to medications, and it's crazy. And not to speak about like Africa or Asia or different countries. So
Sure.
we definitely need to be in touch to learn about the systems,
Mhm.
to see what was working in US and what not, and maybe
Right.
try to do that in my country. Or if you are coming from a country where you have a lot of issues politically, I would say that you have some sort of freedom to be more aggressive
Right.
and use different approaches, more creative approaches, but basically to be aware how systems are working around the world, and then see what could be applied and where, and how to approach to resolving the issue.
Sure. The APF has a program, Protect the Future, and it's where the doctors that have all the expertise, they train the younger doctors coming up. Is that something that you think might work in Serbia as well? Like if they have, like we were even talking about when people are coming out of medical school and they're deciding where they want to, specialize or, get into, if it's whether it's, surgery or whether it's rare disease or whether it's, family practice and things like that. Is that, do you think that you'll be able to do something like to help connect doctors? So if there are people that are willing to learn about something like this, because there are some doctors that they know they can really make an impact because there aren't a lot of doctors and they want to step in and fill those shoes.
Mhm.
And so do you see that as something that could?
Yeah, definitely. In Serbia, we definitely we are striking that path, but I would also say that globally we definitely need more young people, and that's something that I'm trying to support, like the young patient advocates,
Mhm.
not just for porphyria but for all rare diseases.
Sure.
It's a similar, like it happened in APF. So Zaire did amazing stuff in almost a half a century.
Yeah.
And she's now passing all of her knowledge and experience and sharing everything with the community.
Yes.
And
Always. Yeah. We give everything out, and even in excuse my voice, like in words, so it's easier to kind of change and everything like that. We always and we'll always continue to do that for any other groups because it's there already. Like you said, it's hard enough to get something started, especially in rare disease, especially in porphyria. And so I'm glad that's helpful. But yeah, she's been done. I think done more for porphyria than as one person than any other one person. So
in a lifetime.
Yeah.
In one lifetime, she did more than, I would say, groups.
But imagine you're young and you're starting this, you're following that path. Like you said, it's been blazed already, but you can follow it. And so, it's very exciting to know, yes, we're talking about obstacles, but
Right.
we do have, we've got the passion, we've got, the knowledge to know we don't know everything, and to forge, just to keep going with that. It's exciting.
And I was speaking with Harry maybe 2 days ago, and it's a different approach to disease because he was aware of disease in his family, and I
Right.
was not.
Right.
And learning how to cope with disease in your 20s, I basically had a dream. Okay, I'm gonna finish my university degree, then I will have PhD, then I will put my white coat and I will work in some crazy institute of health and something like that. But when porphyria happened and when issues were starting to add up, it was a different to like change the path of your life, and not just the path, but the timeline as well.
Right.
I was super persistent to get my degree in pharmacy, but I heard a lot of stories where people had to change their vocation or the things they were doing because of the disease. And that's something that, that's why I'm all for education, sharing the information, especially inside of families. But other than that, I think that when people start having symptoms at early age, if they have support or support group like we do, it would create actually miracles for them. It's not same when you have support inside your family. It's very different because you know how you were like when you were teenagers, right?
Right.
Nobody's right.
But we think we are.
Yeah. But if we try to connect to teenagers across the world,
like the girl that the video she made, that was amazing.
When they starting that journey or they need support, they won't share their problems with their parents or their doctors. They will share their problems with their peers.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we should definitely focus on young patient advocates.
Yeah.
And having that support, not just psychological support, informational, medical support, but connect them on the same goal. And it's one phase of the life. Let's go through teenage years because we are in this together. And after you pass that period without any rage and any traumas,
I'm just going to say it reduces the amount of trauma that they experience.
Then one day you can definitely be a good adult advocate, right?
All right.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to, like you said, the coping, the healthy coping, the understanding, getting the knowledge. But I know I'm thinking back to when you were talking about that 20 days and trying to get it to 21, but on the opposite side of things, it's getting yourself grace in case it's 19 instead of the 20 to 21. And I think that's probably the common denominator in most of the episodes is everybody's job is stressful, and it's hard to manage it, and it's hard to tell yourself, hey, I need to calm down a little bit, like we were talking about, just to be like, my workload's not going to change, but like I need to change this. But it's just giving yourself grace and just understanding I can only do as much as I can do. And
I literally think of Tasha saying that all the time.
I think about it too. And it's one of those things where it's like you have to. I mean, you don't really have another choice.
Well, here's the thing. If you're too overwhelmed, it depends on which stage you are in your journey. Because sometimes you all you can do is nothing because you're just overwhelmed. And you've got the pain, you've got the trauma, you've got the brain fog or hallucination. You've got all these different symptoms, and I think it's in a perfect world there would be, especially for anyone that's diagnosed, you're saying with a psychologist or something available to say, even if it's a very bare framework of goals to try to get to, I think that's what's missing a lot too, is because I think we all, until we connect with the group, we have all the support groups and things like that. Until you do, you're kind of on your own to figure that out. And and of course that makes the isolation when you already can't go to work or you can't go to school or you have that isolation, it makes it worse. So it is the only thing you can do. Yet sometimes people can't do that. Yet
it's a big hurdle.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And I think it takes time to just, you were saying different people, there's denial and acceptance of the disease. And I think that, asking for help, like Deborah was saying, and, it's just, you have to figure that out so you can do that thing. That's the only thing that you can do to get better, to say, I really wanted to get myself out of this faster, but I couldn't. and that's okay. I got to find this didn't work. I tried something really stupid to, like, when I first started getting better and we were able to push the infusions out and from 1 week to 2 weeks to 3 weeks to 4 weeks. And I was like, I'm just gonna, be positive thinking, and I'm just I would forget I would make myself forget when the infusions were. And then I'm like, maybe one day I'll just wake up and go, it's been 6 months, so this, of course, I know it sounds, but it does sound crazy, and it is crazy, but I just, you never know, you hear stuff like that. So I did that, and I got so sick. I had made a lot of progress, and I totally ruined all that progress. So I learned, okay, that's not a good thing to try next time. Just to keep yourself regular so you can be as healthy as possible, so you can learn other ways to cope. So if that makes sense.
And that's the thing too, is I feel like unfortunately a lot of it is trial and error, and it's just your triggers are not going to be the same as everybody else's.
And not just that, like in the groups of people say, when you're in an attack, eat this or try that. Right. And of course, sometimes it really works, but sometimes it just doesn't. Like someone told me, when you're nauseous, this is recently, if you smell rubbing alcohol, because there was some TikTok thing, no. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, there's no way that's gonna work.
Just throw up instead.
Yeah, I'm gonna call Nadine out here right now. She's like, you gotta try it, and I'm like, I don't think so. I don't feel well. And I do it, and I'm just like it made it so much worse. And I can hear. I'm literally brought the phone to the toilet because I'm like throwing up, and I hear her laughing. She's like, not laughing at me, but she was like, I'm so sorry, because she was like, just do it, just try it. And I was like, I don't think so, but I did try. So sometimes
you tried, yeah.
I mean, sometimes you just don't know. So it's just like one of those things, like the honey and water,
right?
Or it's. Sometimes you just gotta find what works. So.
Yeah.
But
it's definitely individual, right?
Right.
Even our own, I talk about my body for myself has changed so much about what works. So it's imagine with other people. But the good thing is we can ask and we have ideas. And again, like you said, you don't have to think of it yourself. You can just have go through and kind of trying to do it so it's a little bit better. But
What I wanted to ask before we wrap up here in a little bit is just if somebody's watching this right now, whether they've been diagnosed with porphyria or maybe they're thinking they're going to try and see, what advice would you give them right now? If they're looking at you in the eyes right now.
I would just say what our first doctor who diagnosed us told us, which could be a good or bad. Not the best advice for sure, but for all people that are undiagnosed or that are diagnosed, you have the best disease. All you need to do is eat some sweets.
Right?
It helps me a lot because I was mad when I first time heard that.
Mm-hmm.
Then even more mad when I sit down and started reading about porphyria. Mm-hmm. But from this distance, all I can do is just smile at that because I think he was so right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely a best disease because it connects you to the best people all over the world.
Yes.
We are definitely specific.
Mm-hmm.
We are definitely going through different stages and different transformations. I'm saying that mentally. I think that sometimes I like that I was connected to through porphyria to all of the people around the world. I would like to establish a healthy family, but if this was kind of planned for me, I completely accepting that, and I think that definitely we are the best disease, and all we need to do is eat some sweets.
Well, hopefully you'll be able to do both, have the healthy family and do this. We were just talking last night, right? We were walking back, and I was like, I can have as much sugar as I want. I also have something where I can have as much salt as I want, and I'm like, so actually, it's
not that bad.
Pretty great.
Yeah, like we went.
It's not worth it, but
we went out to breakfast the other day, and she's just she's got 10 packets of brown sugar, and she's just putting them in her purse. And I was like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Sweets."
Well, because I wake up in the middle of the night and I need to have it, so just I went to the store across the street, and I got sandwiches, I got cookies, I got milk, I got potato chips, salty, sweet, I got everything that I could do. So because the first 2 nights I woke up and because I wasn't at home, I didn't have my stuff. So that's great advice.
Yeah. Then, although I need to be on a safe side, don't listen too much of what I'm saying, because you definitely need a medical advice.
Of course,
but,
of course.
This is kind of a funny approach, because I definitely had, like, it's a thing. You are first in a rage, then you're in denial, then you're accepting that you're laughing about this, but
because it's so bad, sometimes all you can do is laugh.
Exactly.
And there's because you just, for whatever reason, there could be a million different scenarios, but
and it's the phases of grief. You just have to go through them all. Yeah. Unfortunately, everybody goes at them at different times, and I don't think there's a fast track. There's not a loophole. You can't cut a corner. I think you just have to get hit in the face with it. Yeah. And then you learn from it. Like
you learn how to get up off the ground, after.
And I feel like that's just something you have to do yourself. I mean, it's like when you're growing up and your parents do everything for you. You don't learn anything.
Right.
So,
exactly.
Unfortunately, I mean, that's horrible to say, but like you have to be in the trenches and just you have to feel that. You have to learn from it. So.
And one thing I wanted to say before we end is, I think about that a lot. That if this that I love. We were talking about how many hours we work and how what the challenges are and everything like that. But it's like I have met the best people, and I'm so grateful for that. We all have successes in life. We have to work hard at things for whatever, whether it's a degree, whether it's a family, whether it's a sport. But if I had to have a disease, I have to say that you meet people and immediately have this connection, and it's a beautiful thing, and we do help each other out. So. Thank you so much for sharing your story and what you're doing in Serbia. And I mean, we were talking about it last night. We're just so impressed with, you're just like baptism by fire. You just jumped in, you're doing as much as you can. And I know you said you have your work too. So,
I do.
You should be very proud of yourself.
Well, I just want to thank you again, because you are such an inspiration for me. And you did amazing things, both individually and with APF. And it's a great responsibility taking over such an organization. So I'm sure that you will guys handle and put on a different level of success, unimaginable so far.
Yeah.
And
that's the plan.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that we finally met in person.
I know, it's wonderful. It's so great.
Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to our podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with friends, family, or anyone who could benefit. And please don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on your preferred platform. It helps us spread awareness, and we would be extremely grateful. You can also follow Rarely Discussed on Instagram, YouTube, as well as TikTok. If you're someone seeking diagnosis for porphyria, visit porphyriafoundation.org to receive a free doctor packet, forms for free DNA testing, and a list of doctors in your area. Stay tuned for more episodes of Rarely Discussed.